I'm Taylor Schaefer, Wisconsin's 75th Alice in Dairyland. Today we are going to get a behind-the-scenes look at Lake Geneva Country Meats. I'm here with Nick Borpagel, so please tell me more about Lake Geneva Country Meats and more about you.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Taylor. It's lovely to have you here. We are a third-generation family butcher shop in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. My grandparents, John and Rita Leahy, started the business in 1965. We started doing just custom processing, and now we have a retail store in addition to that. We have two different ways we work with local farmers. One is we have local farmers call us, say, I've raised a beef animal. I would like to get it processed. I have it sold to this customer. When can I book it? We're about a year out on booking animals. We're pretty popular and only have a limited number of spots, and there's a lot of people that want to do that. So we'll fit people in as we can. They bring the animal in, we process it, their customer comes, picks it up. The other way we do that is if you don't know a farmer, which it's kind of one of those things you're like, is there a farmer's almanac? No, that's to check the weather, not to find who's selling custom beef. So you call us and say, hey, I want some freezer beef, I want a quarter beef, a half a beef. And we say, great, we know these local farmers that we book animals from them. We call it house beef, and we'll process it to your specifications. We send it home with you, and everybody's happy.
I'm the plant manager here, so I oversee the production floor and all the breaking down of carcasses, just making sure everything is staying in order and getting around on the customer's requests.
So can you talk about how a carcass like this gets to what we are more familiar with, maybe the grocery store in a smaller company?
So this is that half of beef here. What we start out doing is we break this animal in half to get it down at the rail to get out of the production floor. At that point, we break it into four main primals. So we have the chuck primal, which is down here, which consists of your blade chop roast, you got your brisket, and you got your front shank, which is over here used with like soup boats and such. As we move up this animal to the second quarter of it, this is the rib primal, which is made up of two main sub-primals. You got your bone-in rib, which is where you get your prime rib roast, rib eyes, that kind of stuff. And over here, you see these long balls. This would be your full plate, your short ribs, and stuff like that. From there, move up to this third quarter. This is where you get all of your nice steaks from. This is your sirloin steaks here. Get your porterhouse steaks. Get your T-bone steaks from here. And then also you get your flap, which is where you get your flank steaks from. You get your bavette, cuts like that. And then on the top part is your round. So up here you're getting your top round roast, your sirloin roast. There is some nice, like the steak meat. You get your tri-tip steak stuff from up here. Get your bottom round and stuff, which is used for like stew and stuff like that, rump roast. And then you also have another shank, which is the hide shank, which is great for soup bones as well.
So on this carcass, you can see these blue stamps over here. Can you talk about what the inspection process looks like here at Lake Geneva Country Meats?
So on the harvest floor where the animals are being harvested, the inspector is just checking each carcass for any diseases or anything abnormal. As long as it passes their inspection, we get these stamps that gives us the approval to sell these animals and continue processing.
Are there any products besides beef that you could get from this animal, maybe things that we're not so used to seeing? So fat, blood, bones, or any other byproduct?
Yeah, to utilize most of the animal, we have beef liver, stuff that comes that some customers take in that they eat. A lot of the extra bones and fat can be cooked down and used in different byproducts, like a lot of cosmetic stuff. You can also get gelatin, which is used for various products. The fat, like the suet, you can cook the suet down and create tallow, which is great for, use it kind of like you use oil. You could fry stuff in, but you could almost use it as like a butter spread. It's a little bit more old-fashioned, but I think it's starting to come back again. So, but yeah, there's several different byproducts that can be made out of animals to minimize the waste. And then naturally all the trim and everything is, used for ground, which can be made into hamburger patties, or you could turn stuff into sausage.
Can you tell us about budget-friendly cuts?
It's where we take some of the guts of meat that we would kind of use for roast and stuff like that. And we get some good steaks from them. They're just leaner cuts of meat. So just got to be a little bit more careful as to how you're preparing it, the cooking it, and such. But yeah, you could get like sirloin steaks, you could get top round steaks, bottom rounds that you can use for beef cutlets. Use like eye around and make like little bit minute steaks and stuff like that. So those are some of the affordable cuts.
Why do you?
Because it's delicious and I really love beef. Yeah, it's just a great animal. I like the way it's marbled. You know, I'm a person that likes a little bit of fat on my meat, which is great with beef. I prefer the rib because I like ribeyes. I love prime rib. It's the most well marbled cut on the whole animal. I think there's several great things you can do with it as far as cooking and serving it. So I would say anything that comes from the rib.
Awesome.
So I think we're going to go head on to the cutting floor to take a little bit of a closer look at how a carcass like this gets to a cut, which you would be familiar with at home. So let's take a look.
We take the 2 halves of beef that are hanging in the beef cooler. We quarter them down so we can get them on the rail, which brings the carcasses out onto the processing floor. At this point, the guys start breaking it down into subprimals, which is like the chuck, and you get the brisket and the shanks off of. You get your rib primal, you get your short ribs, you get your hindquarter, you get your full loin, tenderloin, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what they're breaking on the table, which is the first thing you'll see here. From this point, it goes over to the saw guy, which is doing all the finishing cuts, like all your steaks, your roasts, cutting everything to size and thickness that the customer requested from us. It moves over to the wrapping table, which it's then double wrapped in butcher paper and labeled with the customer's order number, and then put into their box with their name, and then from there it goes into the sharp freeze.
You want to walk through the case and show some of the products that you sell here?
Yeah, definitely. So we're really well known for our burgers, our ground beef, steaks. We have awesome steaks, flat iron steaks, which let me tell you, if you're looking for a budget cut of beef, a flat iron steak, it comes from the chuck, but it's still super tender. It's got that rich chuck flavor. I love that. We have some roast. We have our top butt steaks, which are another really great value steak. They come from the sirloin. You can marinate them, slice them up. Our family gatherings, everyone says, oh, you grew up in a butcher shop. You must eat prime rib all the time. No, that costs a lot of money. And, we do like money. So one of our classic meals is, instead of a prime rib or something like that, we like to take a top butt, marinate it in just like your favorite steak sauce, cook it in the broiler, slice it up, have some roast potatoes with it. Everybody gets some steak, everybody gets some potatoes. And that's one of our favorite meals. It's pretty affordable, pretty easy to do. My favorite cut of beef is a little bit of an odd one, but it's a tri-tip steak. I really like beef that tastes beefy. I know that sounds a little weird, but different cuts of beef have more or less beef flavor. It's the different types of muscles, where they're located on the animal. And tri-tip really has that deep, rich, deep flavor that I love. It takes a little bit of a challenge to cook right, because it's not the most tender steak, but you can do really great Southwest rubs on it. You can do like Italian takes on it, slice it up, serve it with whatever you like. And when it's cooked right, it's fairly tender, super flavorful, and it shows what you like to do as a cook a little bit. So I just love a tri-tip. We do get a lot of questions about food safety. How do I know that my beef is safe? And I tell people, USDA inspected beef is the number one thing you should trust in this country. The inspection process is strict. We have an office here that our USDA inspectors here. Every day we're processing the paperwork we have to fill out to trace everything from where it comes from, the animals, how old it is, to make sure there's no concerns with certain pathogens. We can tell you when we ground the beef. We can tell you when we cut steaks, when it came in, what temperature it was when we received it, what temperature it was when we cut it. The USDA is not funded by the industry. It's funded by the taxpayers. They are here to protect the quality of the beef supply, the meat supply in America, and to do it for consumers. The food safety guidelines we have to do are far and away some of the strictest in the world, and the strictest safety guidelines for any type of food production in America. So take home some quality meat. You can trust it when you see that USDA inspection stamp on it. Cook it to the right temperature, and you're going to be fine.
So you mentioned that you are the third generation here.
Yep.
What's your favorite part about being involved in this business?
My favorite part has to be when somebody comes in and they don't know what they're doing. Maybe it's some dude that's trying to impress some chick and is like, I gotta make this dinner and she needs to marry me because of it. And you talk them through, hey, oh, you don't have a lot of money. That's okay. That's okay. Here's how we can take this. You can do a great dish. Here's a bottle of wine you can put with it. Talk them through the experience. They leave feeling confident, and they come back and they bring their fiance and they say, it worked. So that's the best part of the whole thing, is just the people, the stories, and the atmosphere that having really great beef, really great food, all the things around it can produce for people.
What is a tip for people who are coming into the store to purchase beef?
There are no stupid questions. I know that's kind of a cliche, but there's really no stupid questions. There's all of this terminology and phraseology around beef of what's an arm, chuck, bone in, blah, 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 roast. And it's really easy to get scared. And it's really easy to say, how much does a ribeye cost? I don't want to screw that up. A good butcher shop is here to help you learn and help you not be intimidated by all of this. Go into a butcher shop and ask and say, hey, this is the occasion I want to cook for, or I'm really interested in that. Tell me more about it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We're here to help, and we're your experts. If you don't feel comfortable talking to people, Beef Tips, the website is great. There's so many awesome recipes. There's so many awesome FAQs. You can learn more about how beef is raised, how it's harvested, all the cuts, all of the recipes. Really recommend that as well.